All right, we are live.
Awesome.
Hello, hello everyone. My name is Tia Dabney, and I am a program management specialist with the Girl Scouts of Western New York, here to welcome all of you to the second season of The Cookie Jar, virtual food for thought for women. I'm really excited to have you join us today. We have some awesome things in store for this first segment. We have a local trained chef with us by the name of Alexa Joan Wajay, and she's going to be showing us a delicious recipe that I think is right on time for the season. It's perfect for fall. It's a soup in a jar. And I'm really excited. She's going to take us through all the steps, give us all of the recipe instructions. And yeah, I don't want to take up too much of her time. If you're joining us, feel free to leave any questions or comments you may have right in the comments section, and I'll be sure to relay them to Alexa as she goes along. Just so you're aware, we are looking for some adults to help out the Girl Scouts of Western New York at this moment, just for various things. If you'd like to be a troop leader, if you'd like to volunteer in any other capacity, please do visit us at gswny.org. And yeah, I'm going to let Alexa take it away.
Awesome. Hi, Tia. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, Alexa.
Well, happy fall day. Not sure what the weather is going to be doing right now, but we know we're from Buffalo. We know we have 4 seasons, so we know what to look forward to.
Right.
So knowing the times that we're in right now, I wanted something that was easy and simple, but still allowed people to be creative. We have families that are teaching from home. We have families that are, remote. We have families that are actually physically going to an office. So we have a lot of different types of people with a lot of different normals right now.
Yeah.
So this is something that kind of can work for everyone. So if you're at home, working from home in your home office, or if you have kids at home, this is a perfect option. You can make it for the week. You can store it in your refrigerator. You don't have to think too much about what you're going to have for lunch because it's already done. And you don't interrupt your day thinking about, oh, I got to make those chicken nuggets for the kids, or, oh, I got to make some spaghetti and meatballs. But it's also really awesome if you are working in the office. It's something that you can literally grab out of the refrigerator, take with you to the office, pour in some hot water, and have a lunch. Maybe pair it with a nice salad or something like that. The genius of these little contraptions right here are amazing.
Yeah, that's a mason jar, right? You can just
This is the standard 16 ounce. Well, this is actually not a standard 16 ounce mason jar. This is a wide mouth instead of the narrow mouth, which you'll typically find if you're, juicing or, just a narrow. I think I have one here, but just a narrow. Here, let me show you.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see the difference. Yeah. Okay, yes. I think I have more of the narrow ones than the wide mouth one.
Because they're easy to drink out of.
Yeah.
But for this one, this is going to be your mixing utensil as well as your dish.
Okay.
So that's why you want the wide mouth. This is something that you can also use for great breakfast on the go. Thinking oatmeal, overnight oats, thinking chia pudding.
Yes, a smoothie would be
smoothies. Good. Yes. Thinking anything layered. So if you want to make a nice dessert, you can use this mason jar because, again, it's literally like a bowl.
Yeah.
You don't have to fish things around the corner and the edge. Just go right in with your spoon.
Right. Easy access.
Easy access. So this is what we're going to be using today. And I actually have 2 of them because I'm going to hopefully show you 2 recipes.
Awesome.
But with mason jars, they typically come with a metal lid.
Yes.
But you also have the option to buy the plastic lid.
Oh.
I'm a shopper and I'm a visual person.
Okay.
So I love the plastic ones because they just look so chic.
Yeah.
However, these make more sense because they don't leak.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
kind of up to you.
trade off. Yeah, I get that. I feel like I typically see the aluminum top, or
Yes.
I don't often see the plastic. Did you order that separately
The
or?
plastic ones you can get right in the store. They're just they're usually next to the mason jar, so they're in
Okay.
a separate container with only the plastic lids. They're usually, they say they're good with liquids. I found that they do leak. So if
Okay.
I do happen to put some liquid in them, I'll actually take plastic wrap, lay it over the jar, and then put the lid on.
That's a
And
good
it kind
idea.
of helps create a seal.
Yes. Okay. Got that. That's a good tip.
Yes, so that's our utensil. And
Okay.
so what I want to first tell you about is I made some protein. So the things that are in proteins, meaning shrimp and chicken. So in your soup jar or soup in a jar, you're going to have a protein, you're going to have some type of vegetables, some type of noodles or grains to go with it,
Okay.
and then seasonings.
Okay.
So that's basically what the soup in the jar is. You're making soup without too much fuss.
Right.
So today we have as our proteins, and I'll tell you how I made them in a little bit. We have roasted chicken and roasted shrimp.
Okay.
Then we have wild rice. I chose wild rice because there's some people who are staying away from grains and staying away from pastas and even some rices. Wild rice is more of a vegetable because it's actually the seed of a grass.
So it's not a healthy option.
It's a more healthy option. It's very flavorful and it's very versatile. So you can pair it with a lot of different things. And the theme today is kind of Asian flavors. So we have some soy sauce, some sesame oil, some chili garlic sauce, and things like that.
Yum. I am excited.
As my vegetable options, I have spinach.
Okay.
And that's just regular baby spinach from the bag.
Okay.
Nothing fancy. Just $2.50. Have it for a salad, but also put it in your soup.
Got it.
Frozen vegetables, just mixed vegetables. If you don't like peas or you don't like corn, just find frozen carrots. If you don't like the mixture or you don't want to use frozen, then you can use shredded or grated carrots.
Okay.
You could also use shredded cabbage. You could use broccoli. You could use cauliflower. I will say, though, if you use something that is something that needs to be steamed or you don't like eating raw, I would recommend that you just, steam it a little bit at first and then keep it in the refrigerator. And then when you're ready to use it, use it. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty much raw because you're only putting hot water on this, like ramen noodles.
Okay, got it. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, just cook it just a little bit beforehand. Yeah.
Beforehand. And that's another reason why this is so cool because sometimes, especially now during the pandemic, we're all in the kitchen. We're all cooking.
Right.
We all have a stocked refrigerator if our kids or significant other or relatives are not eating us out of house and home.
Right.
So what do you do with all those leftovers? You can make soup in a jar.
Yeah, I love that. And that's someone that I just love leftovers. I'm just one of those people anyway. So any way that I can kind of shake up a leftover meal, I love it.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And then we also I have some shiitake mushrooms. And these I'm using raw. Some people may not like them raw, so you may want to saute them again if you don't like the texture of raw mushrooms. But these are great for salads. They're just awesome. They're a great meat replacement too if you are like a vegan or something and you just want some type of meat to satiate your palate. You can use mushroom.
I've heard that about mushrooms, that it's a good substitute for, people that don't eat meat or, things of that nature.
Yeah. So we have a lot of different options here and a lot of different variety.
Okay.
So as far as the seasonings, so I am going to be using Better Than bouillon.
Okay.
In the jar. This is better than the cube bouillon.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, this is bouillon in a jar, and this is something that they'll use in the restaurants. It just has a richer flavor. It does have sodium in it, so we're not adding a lot of extra salt or anything to this dish. This and the soy sauce will be your sodium.
Okay.
You won't need any more. And then soy sauce, low sodium. This is actually just a bottle. I buy the big jug of soy sauce, and I just keep my glass bottle and keep refilling.
Yeah, that's like the glass bottles you find at the restaurants.
Yeah. And then you save money, because if you keep buying soy sauce, you keep buying condiments, then you're actually paying for the packaging. So if you buy the large container of it and just keep the bottles, you can keep refilling.
That's a really good trick.
Yeah.
It's nice.
And then I'll show you some of the other ingredients a little later, just in case we want to use some of them.
Okay.
So since I went the Asian way in terms of the flavors, for the chicken, I actually used a little bit of ginger spice, 5-spice seasoning, a little bit of cumin, a touch of salt, touch of pepper, and garlic.
Okay.
For the shrimp, I use lemongrass and ginger.
Ooh.
And I actually use, they're a little pricey, but you don't use a lot of it. It's about 23 servings per container.
Okay.
These you can find in the produce section at Wegmans.
Okay.
And it's about $5, again, for 23 servings. So you're not using a whole lot of it. You're only using literally 1 teaspoon.
Okay.
You can use this as a seasoning on your proteins or on your vegetables, or you can actually top off your jar with these seasonings and then mix it up with everything.
Wow. Okay. So it's like in a tube, seasoning in a tube.
Seasoning in a tube. It comes in basil. It comes in Italian seasoning, garlic, chili, pepper, and a whole bunch of other ones. It's a really cool thing. It's kind of saved my palate over these last few months.
I'm gonna have to try that. I love trying new seasonings, but I've always gone like the powder or salt route. I've never really experimented with anything other than that. So
yeah, fresh herbs are really great, but sometimes people are intimidated by them because you buy them and you don't use all of them.
Right.
So that's why the tube is really cool, because you can use it and not have to worry about wasting it or not using it. Yeah, it doesn't give you, it's a good substitute for the freshness of fresh herbs.
Yeah, I prefer fresh herbs, but as you said, it goes bad so quickly, and then you feel bad if you don't use it in time. It's just kind of wasteful. So
exactly.
I love that trick.
Exactly. All right. So you want to get started?
Yeah, let's get started. Okay. I'm excited.
All right. So I'm going to do 1 jar first, and then I'll do the second one. Okay. So I don't go, sometimes I'll go back and forth, but I don't want to confuse myself.
Okay.
So there is a formula, and the formula is kind of simple. I don't really use measuring spoons.
Well, you're a pro. You can probably just.
But yes, but I mean, once you're in the kitchen, you kind of get an eye of how much is what and how much is too much. And you can always add more. You can't take away.
Right.
You can always add more. You can't take away.
Good point.
Yes. So we're going to add about 1/2 of a teaspoon of bouillon. Again, not too much, because it does have a sodium content to it.
Okay.
So you don't want to add too much of that. And then you want to add about 1/2 teaspoon. I'm going to actually use a little less than 1/2 teaspoon of soy sauce.
Okay.
I just want that hint of flavor.
And that's the low sodium soy sauce.
This is low sodium soy sauce. Okay. You could also use, so Bragg's makes some amino acids, which are non-GMO, which is actually what this is.
Yeah.
But you can also use, there's coconut amino acids by Bragg's. And then there's, they have chickpea soy sauce. They have dandelion soy sauce.
Wow.
So there are a lot of different types of misos and soy sauces and things that you can use.
Awesome.
Some of the other flavors that you could use are, again, miso. You could use fish sauce. That kind of elevates the flavor. And it gives an umami flavor that you just sometimes can't place.
Yes. Love umami.
I'm going to add in a touch of sesame oil. Again, that smokiness from the sesame oil is going to be really awesome. And then if you like heat, Heat is good. Again, sodium, so be mindful. You don't want to use too much. You can always use chili garlic sauce, which you can find in the Asian food aisle, or sriracha.
Oh, good old sriracha.
Yeah, good old sriracha. But chili garlic sauce is actually really good. And if you don't want to put it in at first, you can put it in like when you're actually eating it. So maybe put it in a little condiment jar or something like that.
Right. Yep. Just to see how much heat you can take.
Exactly. And you just want to put all your seasonings at the bottom. Okay. So, and if you notice, there's liquid at the bottom. So anything that can get soggy or wilt or soak up liquid, you do not want at the bottom. So it's very important in how you build your jar.
Okay.
You want to start with your protein because that protein is going to sit in all the flavors.
Okay.
And then on top of that, you can put your grains or your noodles and then your veggies.
Right. Right. Because you wouldn't want to put the spinach on top of the seasonings because they would wilt.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be good.
Got it. And that's nothing's worse than wilted spinach because I'm an avid spinach buyer and I hate once it starts to get wilted. And
it's going to wilt because it's going to be hot, but you want it bright hot, not brown hot.
Exactly.
So I'm going to take my leftover chicken and I'm going to take the skin off. Because when you're cooking chicken, I always buy bone-in chicken.
Okay.
And I do that bone-in skin on because I don't always have the opportunity to marinate my chicken. So I don't have that opportunity to impart the flavor. And even if I did, I would still buy the skin on bone-in because it's going to give the chicken more flavor. And then in an effort to be health conscious and health aware, you want to remove the skin. You don't want to eat it.
Okay.
So you're going to season underneath the skin. You're going to season on top of the skin. You're going to season on the bottom of the chicken, but you're not going to eat the skin.
Oh, okay.
Just because it's better for you.
Right.
You don't. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always thought that honestly, the bone-in skin-on chicken is a bit more flavorful, but it's like, that the skin portion of it isn't necessarily healthy for you.
Right.
Typically, they do say that white meat is a bit healthier for you too. So I do like the idea of still being able to eat the dark meat, but maybe just taking the skin off and making it, as healthy as possible.
Well, actually, I find that I actually didn't hear that. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up. But
I could totally be making that up. I feel like that's just something that my mom told me, like eat white meat. And because it's just like healthier, there's less fat on it. There typically doesn't seem to be as much skin on it.
It's true. It does have less fat because, I won't get into too much science, but I'll put it this way. A lot of people don't like dark meat. I don't know why. The dark meat is actually the most flavorful meat.
I agree. I agree.
And I don't know if anybody else will agree that's on Facebook right now. But, I cook with both, but I prefer the thighs.
Okay.
The thighs.
You and I are on the same page there for sure.
Okay. So I'm actually just using about a cup of the chicken, a quarter cup, of the protein, which is equivalent to 2 ounces. And that is just it right in the bottom of the jar.
Okay. And
then I am going to put in my wild rice. And I'm going to put in, now mind you, this is a 16-ounce jar. Okay. So it's roughly 2 cups. So the amount of filler that you want to put in here is going to be between a cup and maybe a cup and a half, cup and a third. Okay. Cup and a quarter. It all depends upon how full you want it.
Right. And you do want to leave some space, right?
You want to leave head space because you want the liquid in there. That's what's going to make the soup.
Right.
Some people like, more guts, I say, than broth in the soup. Yeah. So this is just a quarter cup of grains.
Okay.
But if I wanted more, and I hope you can see that.
Yeah, yep, you can see that pretty well.
So if I wanted more, I'll put in maybe about 1/8 of a cup more.
Okay.
Because I still have my vegetables to put in there.
Right.
So for this, I'm going to put in the mixed vegetables. And I'm going to put in about a half a cup because vegetables are good. And we want to make vegetables the star of your plate, which is what I love to say.
Yes, I like that.
So I'm about 3/4 of the way up.
Okay, yep. Yeah, that perfectly looks like 3/4 too.
Yeah, so I'm going to say right now that's enough because if I wanted to put in more, I can, but I'm just going to hold on a little bit. Okay. Now, when you're packaging this for your home, what you can do is there are going to be certain things that you want to do or you want to put in right before you eat it. So things like parsley or cilantro or green onion or even some of these squeezed herbs and things like that, or a lemon or a lime. You don't want that to go in with the hot water.
Okay.
So you would leave that kind of on the side in a little Dixie cup or something like that. Okay. So that after you put your hot water in and let it sit for a couple minutes, then you squeeze in your little aromatics.
Okay. So you put it in after the fact.
Put it in after the fact. Okay. Yeah. It's better. You can always put it in beforehand, but the flavor is gonna be absorbed by the hot water. It's
right. And it's kind of like a garnishing, right? Would you say?
It's always a garnish. You always want to finish it with something. It's always good to finish with acid when you're cooking because it just brings out the brightness of what you've prepared.
Oh, okay.
So that's an easy way to do that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So that's my first jar.
Okay.
Now my second jar, I'm going to use the shrimp. I don't always use gloves in my kitchen, especially when I'm cooking for myself. But because I'm not close to the sink, I'm putting on the gloves so I don't have to wash my hands over and over again.
Okay.
And if I were in a commercial kitchen, I'd be using my gloves because, especially now.
Yes.
Because.
Important now more than ever, for sure.
Important now more than ever. So I use my chicken first. So I'm going to just go with my shrimp right on top. If they're an issue with an allergy or something like that, I would definitely use different cutting boards.
Yes.
So I'm going to take off the tail so I get as much of that shrimp as possible. And I have about 4 shrimp. I probably only need about 2.5.
Okay.
But, we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe we want to use more because we're using spinach and shiitake mushrooms with the shrimp.
Oh, right.
So we may want to not have as much. Yeah.
I love shrimp personally, so
do you?
I probably use all 4. But that's just me.
Oh, so I'm cutting these into bite-sized pieces. So I'm simply slicing the shrimp.
Got it.
Bite-sized. Remember, soup. You don't want a big, piece of shrimp in there because then you're going to have to worry about how do I chew it. I got to try and bite it while I'm eating the soup.
Juices flying all over the place.
Yeah, that's not going to be good at all. And if you remember, the spices that I used for this were the lemongrass and the ginger. So I am going to use the similar flavors that I used with the chicken, but I'm actually going to add in some of that chili garlic sauce.
Oh, make it a little spicy.
Give it a little spice.
Okay.
So I'm going to get my bouillon again.
Yes, and we had a comment earlier. They love better than bouillon. We might have some other bouillon lovers out there better than bouillon lovers. I've never heard of it, but it must be pretty popular.
Oh, it's the bomb.
Yeah. I'm late.
Now there is a vegan bouillon cube that I use, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's at Wegmans, and it's usually in the the Nature's Marketplace.
Yeah.
And it's actually really good. It's all vegetable based, low sodium. And I actually like using it. I just haven't been able to find it. I think everybody has learned about my secret.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm going to have to let my mother know. She's a new vegan, and I'm sure she would love to know of a vegan bouillon at that.
Yeah, it's a really good one. And if you wanted to use bouillon in this recipe, you certainly could. You just have to crunch it up into a powder, which is an extra step that, you may not want to do.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of soy sauce. I have the bouillon, and I am going to add in a touch of my chili garlic.
Do you like spicy things? What's your spice meter personally?
Well, because I'm a woman of a certain age, I don't like overly spicy foods.
Okay.
Well, I love overly spicy foods, but they don't like me.
Okay.
But I think a little bit of heat is beneficial to a dish.
Okay.
Whenever you're seasoning things, you want to have layers of flavor. You want to impart all of those different taste buds. So you want your sweet, you want your salty, you want your sour, you want your bitter, you want your heat, you want your umami. So you'd be surprised what a few, shakes of crushed red pepper or even a half of a jalapeno can do to a dish.
Yeah.
And it's lovely. It's really nice.
I agree. I used to be very anti-spice, and then I kind of, worked part-time in a restaurant, in a Mexican restaurant, and I had to try everything. And now all of a sudden I love spice.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It really is. It's just a little bit. You don't always need a lot. It's just enough. You don't want to numb your taste buds.
Right.
So you just want to liven them up.
Yeah, I agree.
So I added less soy sauce on this one because I'm going to add a little bit of the fish sauce, just like 2 or 3 dashes.
Got it. Well, it looks like we have a comment from Jennifer Lynn. She said, tip, Costco has the better than bouillon, and it's a big container for about the same price as the container you're using.
I like that.
For the tip, Jennifer.
I might have to contact you. Thanks, Jennifer. All right, so I have all of my flavors in there. And I should be using these gloves sparingly because gloves by the box used to be about $5. Now they're about $15.
Oh.
Yeah. Supply and demand.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm gonna add my shrimp. And because Tia likes shrimp, I'll add all 4.
Yay.
And I'm going to add in the rice. 1/4 cup. Let's see what that looks like. Because we're adding in spinach and mushrooms, I'll add in about another 1/8 of a cup.
Okay.
So I have that there. And then I'm going to put in my mushrooms before my spinach. Again, it's that whole fact of, what's heavier, what's going to need more time, what's going to need less time type of thing. And spinach is light. And these are shiitake mushrooms that are already cut. They come in the bulk container at Wegmans. I'm just going to cut them a little thinner.
Okay.
Just cut them in half. Just because, so again, that whole raw mushroom factor, some people really may not like that.
Mm-hmm.
So cutting it will be a little better.
Yeah.
And this one I'm going to fill a little more just because I like the idea of having more vegetables with the shrimp. Again, it's a personal preference. This is why these are so awesome. Because you can be as creative or as basic as you like.
Yeah.
And it's also good practice for not following recipes. I don't use recipes. I use recipes as a guide to give me an idea of what flavors might sound good together. I never follow recipes for the measurements because it's usually too little. I usually, not salt, but in terms of like the spices and the herbs, I always add more than the recipe says.
Okay.
Because it's just, many times there are people that are developing these recipes, but you have to remember they're developing them for the people that don't like a lot of seasoning, or the people that have health issues, or the people that don't use a lot of, or don't have a strong palate. So if they're going to give you the most basic flavor combination, But you can always elevate it by adding more in terms of the spices and the herbs, not salt. Salt is not a spice. It is not a seasoning.
Oh, I feel like you're saying that for a particular. You've heard someone say this before.
Yes, salt is not a seasoning. It enhances.
Okay.
That's why you'll see now that a lot of pastry chefs and bakers will say just add a pinch of salt. Mm-hmm. Because the salt is going to bring up the sweetness. It's going to enhance the sweetness. It's going to enhance the spices that are in a baked dish. So salt is only meant to enhance. It is not a seasoning.
Wow. Okay.
Salt is not a flavor. It's not.
You know what? You're teaching me a lot right now. Unfortunately, I'm a little embarrassed to say I may use salt a little too often as a season. I will admit.
Well, just try salt alternatives, right? So try your soy sauce, try some miso, try some fish sauce, try a little chili garlic sauce, or just try more spices and herbs. Okay. And then taste it and then finish it off with a little bit of salt. Okay. Sometimes with certain things, you do need salt in the beginning of cooking, but not a lot. You know, just a little sprinkle, just to start it off. Like if you're making a soup and you have onions that you're cooking, I always use a little bit of salt because that's my first flavor base, but it's also going to help soften those onions. Okay. And it's going to help take the bitterness away. So you have to, salt is like should be a tool, you know, It should be the main dish. Right. Good point. So I have my seasonings, I have my shrimp, I have rice, and I have my mushrooms. And now I'm just going to take my spinach, and I'm not going to put it in whole. I'm going to rip it. Again, that whole bite size factor. I have my seasonings. I have my... Sorry. Why, that voice sounds familiar. I know. So this is a full jar. And again, I am someone that when it comes to mushrooms and wild rice, that's my favorite. That's my go-to. So this for me is perfect. And if you fill your jars and they're too full, you can always pour them into a bowl, especially if you're at home. Mm-hmm. But, you know, even this, because I cut everything nice and small, I can still eat it out of the jar. Yeah. So I have my two bowls. You see, they're very, very different. I love them. Yeah, but they're so colorful. They're colorful. Yeah, they're hearty. They're hearty. All right. So, you know, bit bamboo, pack up and throw these right in the fridge. And you're ready to go. That's so And simple. Then at lunchtime the next day, you're like, hey, I'm ready for a little bit of lunch. And you open up your jar. You say you have your water that's boiling. Mm-hmm. TV magic, my water's already boiling. And now be mindful, this is a glass jar. So when you put your hot water in, it's going to be hot. Okay. Yes. And when you bring it out of the refrigerator, you want it to come to a little bit of room temperature. Don't leave it out for half an hour. Don't leave it out for an hour, but leave it out maybe 10 minutes, just to, 5-10 minutes, just to take the chill off the glass. Okay. It's a mason jar. It's sturdy, but just to be safe, that's just my chef teacher mind. Yeah. That's a good tip. Yeah. And I also just learned you can make mason jar cozies by knitting them. So if there are any knitters out there, or if your Girl Scouts would like a little activity. Ooh, I'm going to have to write that down. Yes, you can knit or crochet some mason jar cozies. Yes. That's perfect. A cute little cozy mason jar sweater for the fall. Perfect. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hot water. I'm going to fill it to the brim. Not the top brim, but that first line. Okay. And then I'm going to put my jar on. Mm-hmm. About how much water do you think you added? Maybe like a fourth or... Remember, I don't use measuring cups.
I know.
So I really just put it up right to that first line.
Okay.
So right underneath the lid.
Okay.
Right there. Because, I mean, roughly anywhere from, well, depending upon which jar we're talking about, anywhere from 4 to 8 ounces. Because you're thinking about, if I put in a cup of, filler or guts, then I have a cup left. So that's 8 ounces. But if I put in 3/4 of a jar, which is roughly about 12 ounces, then you maybe need about 4 ounces more of water. Obviously, there's space that the water is going to flow into. But if you're using a tea kettle, or if you're at work and you have one of those, water machines, just pour the water in until it fills. You don't want to spill it. So you don't want it, to the very, very top.
Yeah.
Or spill on you.
Right.
We do have to be safe.
Hot water.
Yes, exactly. So, just be mindful of that. But in terms of the exact amount, it can vary.
Okay.
And, again, in terms of the versatility, this doesn't always have to be wild rice. It can be brown rice. It can be white rice.
Awesome.
You can have leftover pasta.
Awesome. I actually think someone had a question. Was your rice cooked, or was it?
Yes. So when you're making these, you always want to use pre-cooked proteins and grains.
Okay. Got it.
You don't want to use anything raw. Remember, this is easy and convenient, but you still have to prep.
Okay.
You can't get out of that. I'm sorry, folks. I do try and save you, but the only way that chefs make things look easy is because they prep. And that's called mise en place. And just like when you're doing your lesson plans, or if you're at work or you're preparing for a meeting, in order for that meeting to go spot on and to go the way that you want it, you have to prepare. It's the same thing in the kitchen. Yeah. And preparing is going to make your life a little easier.
Yeah.
It takes some time.
I mean, the hot water can't do it all. You do have to.
We would like it to.
I know. Trust me, I wish.
Exactly. Another interesting ingredient that you could use with this, tea. And people may say, well, I wouldn't eat herbs, but you do eat herbs. I mean, nettle tea, green tea, it could give it a nice flavor. Nice. If you put it directly in there, you can eat it, or you could steep tea and then use the tea as your hot liquid over.
Wow, I would have never thought about it. I'm actually drinking tea as we speak. I love tea, and I would have never thought to do that, but that's so interesting.
Yeah,
it's not like it would have a lot of taste, so it wouldn't throw the meal off necessarily.
It wouldn't throw it off, but it could change the tone of the dish or the soup. So like even with a nice earthy green tea, mixing it with, the chili garlic sauce and the soy sauce, even the fish sauce, it would give it a nice flavor.
Yeah. Actually, we have a question from Lisa Bush. Can you build a jar of soup just using leftovers?
Absolutely. That's the whole purpose of this. It's ease. So I talk about meal prep and I talk about doing things in advance. But in the beginning of the show, we said, our refrigerators at this time during COVID and this pandemic, overflowing. Our freezer has cooked food in it. Our refrigerator has cooked food in it. So how do we use up all this cooked food?
Yeah.
This is one way. Even if you have, beans in the freezer, or canned beans, or beans from tacos, if you have, spaghetti from the night before, you could make an Italian soup in a jar with some chicken, some pasta. You could use some cannellini beans. You could add some pesto for some seasoning. A little bit of Parmesan cheese, and then whisk that up with some hot water.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. You're opening my eyes to like so many different combinations now.
And it is. And that's why I say this is so creative that, sometimes we're like, oh, I got to have the same old Tuesday taco night, Monday's meatloaf,
Right.
You can be as creative as you want. If there's a flavor you've been thinking about, like an Ethiopian spice, you're like, I wonder what that's going to taste like. why not try it in a soup in a jar and see if it's a flavor that you like and something you want to, invest in.
You know what it reminds me of, honestly? It reminds me of being in college eating ramen, like just, the seasoned packets, the noodles, you add hot water and bam, you have
This
a
is
meal.
ramen remix. Because no more packets. You can still use the noodles if you want to.
Right.
But I mean, even if you have a packet of 20-cent ramen in your cabinet, throw out the seasoning packet and just create your own spices and use it. Yeah. I wouldn't actually the noodles are not very healthy. But if you have them, we don't want to waste them. Right. So, that's how you can use them and still, feel better about eating them.
I love that. I love it. So how long would you suggest to like let it sit and just kind of soak in and cook?
About 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
Or until you can touch the jar. You don't want it piping hot.
Okay.
You can, stir it up. Hope you can see that.
Yeah, I can.
Make sure you get all your seasoning stirred up in the bottom.
Yeah. Wow.
And you have soup in a jar.
It literally looks like soup. I mean, it just didn't look like that like 2 seconds ago. And now all of a sudden it's a full meal.
Yeah. And you have the nice little sesame oil, soy sauce in here. You have the bouillon in here. And it's just, it smells wonderful. It smells like soup. And then before you eat it, I have my lime. Mm-hmm. You just squeeze the lime in there.
Perfect.
Stir it up. You can add a little bit of cilantro.
Ooh.
If you had some pickled ginger, you could, slice that up and add it to it. I mean, honestly, the combinations are endless.
Yeah, it seems so.
Absolutely endless. So, yeah, it's really good. And the broth?
I am definitely going to have to try this on my own. I have plenty of leftovers in there, so I just have to pick which one I'm in the mood for, basically.
Exactly. And again, sky's the limit. You can use leftover fish. You can use any protein, any grain, any noodle, any fragrance. You can use, if you like red onion, slice up some red onion really thin and just, lay it on top so that when the water steams, you'll still get that nice bite of the onion.
And again, you would layer it as the seasoning. You would put the protein, you'd put the grain, you'd put the veggie, right? And then the water on top.
Yep. And then remember, don't forget about your, little end flavors.
Yes, the garnishings or whatever type of flavors you want to add at the end. Yes, for sure.
Exactly.
Well, this was amazing. It seems very simple. I think, most of us should be able to do this at home. If you did tune in a little late or maybe didn't catch it from the beginning, we will be posting this on the GSWNY Facebook along with the instructions and the recipe. So definitely don't worry if you weren't able to catch all of Alexa's presentation. But thank you so much for joining us tonight, Alexa. We really appreciated it. And thank you for teaching us something new. And I'm sure this will be a highlight of many of our dinners for this season.
I hope so. And it's funny how, we talk about different things that are becoming new again. This is not new. But there's always some new twists that you can put onto it.
Yes, I love it. Hey, no sense in recreating the wheel, just
exactly. I mean, there's so many things out there that we need to start reinstituting again. Just bring back and have some fun with.
Yes. Well, thank you so much again. For anyone out there that's looking for some new volunteer experience or opportunities with the Girl Scouts, please do visit our page at gswny.org. We have so many opportunities, whether you'd like to lead a troop, maybe co-lead a troop, or simply just volunteer your time in any other capacity. It would be greatly appreciated. And again, Alexa, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Hope to have you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I had a great time, and I really appreciate you contacting me so I can share this with your group.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments. I'm sure when she has some time, maybe Alexa can come back and answer any questions you may have. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Alexa.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.